Welcome to Unforgotten Files, where every story deserves to be heard and every life remembered. Vanished. The haunting case of Tamika Huston. Spartanburg, South Carolina, a place where the rhythm of life is steady, unhurried. But even in places like this, shadows can fall unexpectedly. And when they do, they leave a mark that can never be erased. In May 2004, a young woman named Tamika Huston vanished without a trace. What followed was a year-long search for the truth, a search that would expose the dark side of this quiet community. Tamika Huston was 24 years old. She had a bright future ahead of her, a supportive family, and close-knit friends who loved her. But one day, she simply disappeared. No one saw her leave, no one heard from her again. And in a town like Spartanburg, where everyone knows everyone, her sudden absence didn't go unnoticed for long. It was a regular day when Tamika was last seen. She left her house like she always did, no different than any other day. But as the hours passed and she didn't return, her friends and family started to worry. Calls to her phone went unanswered. By the next morning, it was clear, something was wrong. Tamika wasn't the type to drop out of sight without a word. She was reliable, someone you could count on. So when her friends realized she hadn't been seen or heard from, they acted quickly. They reported her missing, and the Spartanburg Police Department got to work. But finding Tamika wasn't going to be easy. Days turned into weeks, and still, there was no sign of her. The police interviewed everyone who knew her, hoping for a lead. But each interview only seemed to deepen the mystery. Where was Tamika Huston? And what had happened to her? The detectives assigned to the case knew they were up against the clock. The first 48 hours in a missing person case are crucial, but they had already lost that window. They began by retracing Tamika's last known movements, talking to her neighbors, friends, and anyone who might have seen her. One name kept coming up: Christopher Hampton. Hampton had dated Tamika for a short time, but the relationship ended badly. He told police he hadn't seen Tamika in weeks, but something about his story didn't sit right with them. The detectives decided to dig deeper. As they looked into Hampton's background, the detectives found a man with a history of violence. Nothing major, just a few incidents that had flown under the radar, but enough to raise red flags. And then there was the matter of his alibi. It didn't quite hold up. The phone records told a different story. Despite what Hampton had claimed, he and Tamika had been in contact on the day she went missing. The records showed a series of calls, one of them placed late in the evening, long after Hampton said he last saw her. The detectives knew they were onto something. The detectives obtained a warrant to search Hampton's apartment. It was their first real break in the case, but they didn't know what they'd find. As they moved through the apartment, something caught their eye. A dark stain on the carpet, almost invisible to the naked eye. But the forensic team knew better. The forensic tests confirmed their worst fears. The stain was blood, and it belonged to Tamika Huston. The discovery was a game changer. What had started as a missing person case was now something much darker. The detectives knew they needed to bring Hampton in for questioning. This time, they weren't taking any chances. Hampton tried to hold on to his story, but the weight of the evidence was too much. The detectives pressed him, showing him the phone records, the blood evidence, and the inconsistencies in his alibi. Finally, he broke. Hampton confessed to killing Tamika in a fit of rage after an argument. He said he didn't mean to, but the detectives had heard it all before. Hampton led the detectives to a remote wooded area outside of town. It was there, beneath the cover of trees and earth, that they found Tamika's remains. The sight was heartbreaking, but it was also the final piece of the puzzle. The case was solved, but the damage had been done. Christopher Hampton was arrested and charged with murder. The trial that followed was swift. The evidence against him was overwhelming, and his confession sealed his fate. The jury deliberated for only a few hours before returning with a guilty verdict. Hampton was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. For Tamika's family, the verdict brought a measure of justice, but it could never bring her back. They had lost a daughter, a sister, a friend. And while Hampton would spend the rest of his life behind bars, the pain of Tamika's loss would never fully heal. Tamika Huston's story is a tragic one, but it's also a story of resilience. Her family and friends have kept her memory alive, honoring the vibrant young woman who was taken too soon. They remember her not for the way she died, but for the way she lived, with joy, with love, and with a spirit that touched everyone she met. As we remember Tamika, let's also remember the importance of justice, of community, and of never giving up on those who can no longer speak for themselves. Her story is a reminder that the fight for justice is never over, and that we must continue to shine a light on the darkness, no matter where it hides. Thank you for watching. Subscribe now, hit like, share this story, and turn on notifications.